Hi everyone! Today we're going to be taking the camera out of bounds in Abiotic Factor and exploring some neat things that you can't normally see in game. Just in case you're unfamiliar with Abiotic Factor, it's a survival, crafting, base building game where you're stuck in an underground paranormal research facility caught between extra-dimensional aliens and invading religious fanatics. If you'd like to play it yourself, I highly recommend going in without spoilers. That said, for this video, I'm only going to be exploring the first third of the game or so, up to the Cascade laboratories, and we'll explore the rest of the facility in a later video or two. So let's dive right in. At the beginning of the tutorial, you're dropped off at the secret entrance to the Gate Cascade Research Facility for what's about to be the worst first day of work ever. Normally, the car that drops you off drives away over the horizon, and if you try to follow, then the screen fades to black and teleports you back. But if we go out of bounds, then we can sail over whatever game element it is that's warping you back. If we catch up to our driver, we can see that the car has stopped, but the driving animation is still playing, so it kinda just looks like he desperately needs to piss. And then here's a bird's eye view of the entire tutorial map. Moving even farther out, we can see the dome of the skybox as well. Something fun here is that the skybox is mirrored on the bottom, so there's actually a second sun underground directly opposite to the one that we see in the sky. Anyways, what we're actually supposed to do in this introduction is ring this buzzer so Jackson the security guard lets us in. Here's what's really happening off camera. Inside the building, Jackson is hanging out behind the desk until we ring the buzzer. Then a new model gets loaded in, and the original Jackson is hidden. When the shutter closes, everything switches back. If we get close to that second model of Jackson at the window, we can see that the name is displayed as Data Not Found, which is something we're actually going to see all throughout this tutorial level. We can also take this opportunity to take a closer look at everything behind Jackson's desk. Unsurprisingly, all of the security cameras appear to just be some static images. The small TV that Jackson is watching also has a static image of a sports game on it. No idea why there's this blue diamond in the center of the image, though. Something else I found interesting is this tiny little photo frame version of the forest painting that you could normally find on the second floor of the office sector. Shortly after this, the tutorial has you take a long elevator ride down to the staff processing section of the facility. Here we get a view of several floors in the facility, including what appears to be a reception area, a meeting room next to a hallway with some vending machines, and some soldiers escorting a giant alien creature. In that first floor we pass, the reception area, unsurprisingly, we can see that everyone in here also has a Data Not Found name, and they don't say anything if you talk to them. But otherwise, it seems like they still have some shared code with the regular NPCs in the game, which is why they all turn to look at you. I gotta admit, seeing these two heads spin towards me while I was exploring out of bounds was a little unsettling the first time it happened. Also check out how her chair has no legs. In the second floor conference room, there's one scientist has his arm animated. He kinda just seems really mad about being stuck in a meeting, which, honestly, understandable. If we go all the way to the back of the room, we can see this security guard trying and failing to unlock a door over and over.
Let me in! Let me in!
And then finally in this room, if we go up into the ventilation system, we can see there's a scientist hiding up here that you most definitely would never be able to see in the normal course of the game. I have to imagine that this guy might just be hidden up here for people exploring out of bounds to find. Then we have the gatekeepers that are escorting a captive behemoth into somewhere further in the facility. I was really surprised to see that every gatekeeper in this area is wearing a different outfit, even though you basically only see them in silhouette when you're riding down the elevator. Also fun in here is that the behemoth is also named Data Not Found, and if you try to talk to it, sadly it doesn't have anything to say either. Later on in this tutorial, we pass by an area called Ordo Storage. When we get to see a window into it, it very much feels like a shout out to Indiana Jones. Going out of bounds, we can see it's full of crates that are identical to ones we can break in the game normally, but none of them were breakable here, or at least as far as I could find. This computer was surprisingly usable, and in some ways felt like it was calling me out for looking at something I wasn't supposed to be looking at. And then when you go to the back, the crates get really janky and clip into each other. The last thing in this tutorial area I want to point out is the elevator at the very end of it. It's made to look and feel like you're going down, but if we travel out of bounds, we can see that it's actually just a slice of wall that's been animated to give the illusion of movement.
Illusion, Michael.
So now that we're outside the tutorial area and into the facility proper, we have to get a close-up view of one of the most important things in Abiotic Factor, which is, of course, canned peas. You know, I'd never noticed before, but the label is actually legible if you get close enough. Grandpa Bubby's 100% organic canned peas.
Yum.
Next, I'm going to show you probably my favorite find in this whole video. If we go straight up from the main office plaza, we can find the actual sleep minigame. Since this is a survival game, your scientist needs to sleep now and then so you don't pass out. And when you do, this sleep minigame pops up and you can jump over pests in order to sleep harder, I guess? I'd always assumed this was just a two-dimensional game overlaid on your screen, but it looks like a lot of the sleep minigame is actually three-dimensional and just being displayed with a fixed camera perspective. Tragically, despite my best attempts, I was unable to build a bed in the sleep minigame and inception myself into my own dreams. Something else really strange up here is this floating object. Every time I've come up here, it's been something different. No idea yet what's causing it to change, but I'll keep investigating. Now, I mentioned earlier that there's a lot of extra dimensional shenanigans going on at Gate, and you get to explore a lot of those other locations, or as the game calls them, portal worlds. One of the earliest portals you find takes you to Flathill, a very Silent Hill-esque town that's been overrun by giant musical aliens called composers that will scoop you up and eat you if they catch you.
Hey, you. You're finally awake.
I was very curious what's behind this boarded up door near the beginning, and unfortunately this house has a surprisingly low amount of square footage. If we explore beyond this, we can see some of the houses, which are all just duplicated assets. Inside the grocery store, we can see what appears to be a crouched down composer through a blocked door. Moving out of bounds, we can see that this composer is just sitting and chilling and doesn't really want anything to do with us. There's another composer like this just hanging out in the library and enjoying all the great things that libraries have to offer. There's also this statue that looks like a modified NPC, and sure enough, it bleeds when you stab it. Side note, we can see something similar back with the scientist display in the main plaza of the office sector as well. One last fun thing I found in Flathill was this basketball court next to the school. You can see it from afar, but normally you can never access it. Turns out, it's just a lamppost with a backboard. Really creative reuse of assets here. Quick diversion here. While I was exploring out of bounds for this video, I had a portal storm that started out of bounds. Portal storms are these occasional occurrences where the various extra-dimensional critters try to invade your base. Having one spawn out of bounds led to some pretty funny results though.
I'm king of the world! Woohoo! Woohoo!
The next portal world we'll look at is the train that will blow up the universe if it ever stops running. First up is another fun example of reused assets. If we look at the engine of the train up close, we can see it's just 2 fans and a Tesla coil. Then there's this soldier of the order standing at this open train door, and it's always hard to resist just pushing him off. When this happens, normally it looks like the train is driven off without him. But if we go below the moving ground, it's easy to see how much of an optical illusion the moving ground and the train tracks really are. This is even easier to see if we fly up really high and look at the boundaries of the train world. However, I do think it would have been a lot funnier if they just rocketed the soldier off in the direction that the ground is moving. I tried to get a closer look at the moon, but unfortunately all of the portal worlds completely unload if you go too far out of bounds. This did lead me to a fun discovery though, which is that every portal world appears to exist in the same map as the main facility, just spaced really far apart. In this sped up footage, you can see it takes me a few minutes of real-time travel to go from the train to the main facility.
Ready, go!
So now that we're back in the main facility, let's explore the Cascade laboratories.
Are you sure about this, Abe?
Of course I'm sure, Janet.
Do you remember the pocket dimension? I remember the pocket dimension.
This is completely different.
One of the earliest events that happens when we arrive to this sector is this little scene that plays out with beloved recurring characters Abe and Janet having to flee from this electro-pest.
Oh no. Janet,
Oh my god, it's loose.
run, Janet.
There's this door they run through at the end of the scene that we normally can't see inside. Going out of bounds, we can see they just freeze in place and disappear as soon as it's over. And when we run into Abe and Janet a little later in the Cascade Labs, they're standing in this hallway across from a door we can't open. Which is probably a good thing, since on the other side is a steep drop-off into the void. But it is neat to see that this door perfectly lines up with this rock on the other side, implying there is a full-size containment cell there. You see, the Cascade Labs are home to a bunch of SCP-style entities locked away inside various containment cells. The one I was most interested in is right here, the Shadow Hopper, which is this thing locked inside a pitch-black room described as needing full containment at all times because it can move through shadows or something like that. We can just barely see the hint of something if we shine a light through the containment cell. Going inside, we can see that it looks like a static image that's just being moved up and down, and even if we increase the brightness as much as the game will let us, it's still pretty hard to see. Thankfully, it looks like the Abiotic Factor wiki has pulled the actual image file, so here it is cleaned up.
Jesus Christ!
One other fun thing to note is if you somehow glitch inside this cell in the course of regular gameplay, the Shadow Hopper instantly eats you. And then here's a quick peek at the black void of the room from outside the map. Another entity I really wanted to see up close was this killer snowman.
I said, who's out there? Really fucking frosty.
Unfortunately, this friend doesn't have any fun textures, and nothing seems to happen if we attack him. Although the future roadmap they just announced while I was editing this video makes it sound like we might be seeing him in the future. In another area is the sealed off containment block Curie. The gamer really wants to unload the area as soon as I go through the door, so here's the best view I can get. And then what's behind this other spooky door? Unfortunately, nothing. And the last thing in Cascade I want to show off is this weird room that's hidden off from the area where you fight the Tarrasque. There's just this random mirror in the middle of a crop circle. It sort of resembles a portal that you can find later on called The World in the Mirror. My best guess is maybe this was version 1 of The World in the Mirror before it got moved to its current spot. The surrounding room is full of all sorts of missing and unfinished textures. There's also this random blank sign just floating out in the void. Alright, well that's all the time we have for this video. Let me know if there's anything neat in Abiotic Factor that you want me to look at for the next video. But also let me know if there's other games you're interested in seeing out of bounds. Okay, hope you have a good week. Bye!